Hey guys, Odddoll Monica here again. Today we're going to jump right into it because I kind of have a lot of knowledge to spew at you. And so you're not just bored out of your mind listening to me ramble. I put some footage in here of me cleaning up some childhood dolls of mine that were in my mom's attic for like 15 or 17 years. And this My Scene doll here has these pink stains that we're going to talk about. Now, I've seen a lot of people refer to them as highlighter marks because they look a lot like highlighters. Or you may have seen them referred to as pony cancer, which is a term that originates from My Little Pony collectors. And there's a lot of conflicting information on this, and I haven't really seen anybody really like 100% agree on this is what these pink marks are. So I did a pretty decent amount of research on this, and I have gotten to the bottom of it. So I wanted to share that with you guys because it's something that I've wondered about. Like, mainly I think people are worried when they see these marks that it might spread from one doll to another. I've seen a lot of people say that it's mold. And I can tell you that it is not mold, and these pink stains cannot spread from one doll to another. And I will give you all the science of that, so you know that I'm not just full of baloney, and I will put links in the description to where I found this information from. So these stains actually come from a specific bacteria that creates a pink dye byproduct. So what happens is the bacteria feeds on something on the doll, a specific thing that we'll talk about in a second, and then it in turn creates this pink dye. Now, the bacteria is called Streptomyces, and the reason that you find it on dolls is because of the material that they're made of. So a lot of the dolls in your collection are likely made of PVC, which is polyvinyl chloride. In this type of plastic, there's a process that happens called plasticizer migration, and in that process, vinyl is releasing plasticizer over time, and then that plasticizer, which is then on the doll, is being eaten by a bacteria that makes a reddish dye in return. So I'm just thinking of this as basically this bacteria eats plasticizer as it seeps out of your doll over time, and then it poops out pink. Now, a bit of a side note that I just thought was like interesting when I was doing this research is that there have actually been studies done recently to test PVC biodegradation strategies, and Streptomyces were used to break down PVC products quite successfully. Maybe you care about that, maybe you don't. I just thought that it was interesting. So then, next thing, a lot of doll collectors are, I think, concerned about if the stains are harmful to their health and if it can spread from doll to doll. And I'm not an expert, but I think that the research very conclusively points to one thing. So for one, it seems scientifically impossible for these stains to spread from one doll to another. One reason being because by the time you see the pink byproduct of the bacteria is probably long gone with nothing but that pink stain left to remember it by. And even if that bacteria was still alive, in order for it to affect another doll, that doll would also need to be releasing plasticizer in order for the bacteria to have a reason to even go onto that doll, and it would need to have something to consume and then digest to make that pink dye, which is the reason why the bacteria only affected that one My Scene doll of several dolls that had been in my mom's attic for so many years. Now, the only way that these stains can spread is that they can become bigger while the dye is still present, though. So once the dye is nothing but a stain, that stain is not going to expand. And the only spreading that it's doing is within the doll that it's already affecting. It's not jumping from one doll to the next. So if you had a doll that had this dye inside of it and you kept it in a damp or moist environment, then that dye is soluble, so the moisture would potentially make it spread to create a bigger stain. But again, that stain is within that one doll, because most likely by time you see the pink, the bacteria is no longer present, and neither is the dye. It is only a stain, most likely. So I've kind of been thinking of it like this. Like, I would still hang a stained t-shirt in my closet next to non-stained t-shirts, because I know that stains don't just jump from one shirt to the next. Now, one other aspect worth addressing is that a lot of people seem to think that this stain is mold or plastic mold, and mold totally can grow on dolls, but this pink dye is not a mold and it's not a fungus. It is just a byproduct of a bacteria that thrives on vinyl after it's been exposed to moisture. Now, bacteria can kind of be a scary word sometimes, so I think that the question is it harmful to your health? And the answer is usually it's not at all. And like, in fact, it's so safe that it's actually used to make a lot of antibiotics, and it is venturing into the agricultural realm. Like, it's going to be a source of natural organic food coloring. And it's also even used in the fashion industry as a natural way to dye textiles. And another bonus little factoid is that using organic dye, like what is produced by this bacteria, is actually going to help support biodiversity, because it prevents the release of chemicals into the environment that occur in the production of synthetic dyes. So I don't know about you guys, but having this information has definitely made me feel more comfortable with these sorts of stains that you see pretty commonly, in plastic toys. So for me personally, I'll always wash a doll that has these sorts of stains with antibacterial soap before permanently adding them to my collection. But outside of that, when just the stain is left, you don't have to worry about it being mold, because it's not. You don't have to worry about it spreading from one doll to the next, because it won't. And you don't have to worry that it's full of bacteria, which isn't a harmful bacteria to most people. Anywho, I hope that somebody found this helpful or informative in a way that was interesting and not just entirely boring. So thank you so much for choosing to watch my video, and I hope you have a super duper fantastic rest of your day. Bye.